Hey, Frugal Firearms podcast listeners. Today is a very different show because today we have a show that was recorded live at SHOT Show 2026 with Yankee Hill Manufacturing. Their CEO was available to us, so we could not pass up the opportunity to get a short discussion on his products, largely that are now suppressors. So the audio is a bit rough, but again, you don't pass up an opportunity to talk to a great company's CEO. So I hope you enjoy it.
My engineers were very upset because I kind of gave them a napkin sketch and said, I've been toying around with this idea for years, what do you think? And they come up with their own ideas and try other stuff. And, after 3 or 4 months of development, they're like, your napkin sketch is the best one.
There you go.
Hey, this is Craig and Ken from the Frugal Firearms podcast live at SHOT Show 2026. And we are with Chris, who is the CEO, correct?
CEO, president, owner.
Everything?
Yeah, chief bottle washer.
You're the everything?
Yeah.
Of Yankee Hill Manufacturing. And we have been chasing this company for a really long time because we know that they're great in the value space. But you know what? We're going to talk about primarily today suppressors. And if you've heard our shows before, you know that we're from California, and having a suppressor sent to us for the purpose of testing,
we'd enjoy it for
that's
a few
kind of
minutes
hard
before the feds show up and arrest us.
Yeah. So Ken, you've experienced you've got some Yankee Hill Manufacturing products.
Oh yeah,
on your guns before. What do you have that's not suppressors?
I have the backup iron sights.
So do I. Those are great.
Those are great.
And they have flash suppressors, and they have rails, and they have a lot of different products.
Right.
But right now, since we are now at apparently the suppressor and hunting outdoor trade
Everything
show,
is suppressors.
it's
at
all
the show.
about suppressors.
It's all
this
about
year.
quiet. It's all about suppressors, and sadly, it's nothing about California.
But YHM has been in the space for a while now, and what we're going to talk about, by the way, this is a lot like, for you drinkers out there, Ken is not one of those.
Not one of those.
Yeah, this is like Jack Daniels.
I'm the designated driver.
You can make the product, but you can't use the product.
Right.
And that goes right to the core of the problem that YHM has. So, Chris, go ahead and take my mic and take over, sir.
Sure. So, yeah, like you said, we're kind of in the Jack Daniels situation where we can make the product in Massachusetts, but we can't sell our own product within the state. Even using it is tricky if you want to go by our Attorney General's rules. So I kind of like to say, we're made in Massachusetts and sold to America.
Okay.
Apparently that makes California also not part of America, so sorry.
Yeah, sadly, it's true.
There's lots of parts that are not in America right now, including Washington and Oregon and places like that. So what you've got, your primary product right now, you want to talk about your suppressors. So why don't you go ahead and grab one and then tell us, I'll hold the mic for you while you're demoing it, what's special about it. It looks modular to me. And I think that is a great advantage. You'll want to talk about why it's modular, and then talk about things like why you're a good value in the space. And by the way, listeners, I unable to use this product in California, at least presently, had to do some homework. So what homework did I do? I went by the Silencer Shots booth over here at SHOT Show, and what did I ask them? I said, hey, if you guys... you represent lots of brands. Did you say
over 60?
Something like 62, I believe.
Yeah,
brands
like
at this
62
time.
brands. If they represent that many brands, which ones do you consider to be the best values? And they gave me 3 companies, and YHM was one of them. So that's why we're here, because
absolutely,
with someone we trust is actually saying that they're the best values. So Chris, I'll hold the mic. You tell me about that product.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with kind of YHM's whole philosophy of best value. We don't want to be the cheapest guys. We don't want to be the most expensive guys. We want to be the guys who put out a quality product that the average shooter, hunter, individual can enjoy without having to take out a second mortgage.
Now, that's a shotgun suppressor, right?
Yep, this is our Victor 20 shotgun suppressor, 20 gauge.
And as an acoustics engineer, so I know what a decibel is, how many dB are you taking out of that, and how much is that increasing, let's say, the longevity of someone's hearing or the enjoyment that they get or everything else?
Yeah, so in the 20 gauge version, we're about 132 decibels measured at the shooter's ear.
So for reference, guys,
That's loud,
132
still.
dB is not something you want to have continuous noise, but remember, this is just a noise that is very momentary. And do you happen to know, I think I do, how many decibels the same gun would put out unsuppressed?
It's above 160, probably closer to 165.
Now, do you think that that is an equation that is, well, they're a quarter more loud? No, because decibels don't add up that way. It's many, many, many times louder, going from 130s to the 160s or 170s.
Logarithmic scale,
Yeah,
correct?
it's logarithmic.
scale.
Yes.
I feel like we need the whiteboard back now. Do a little
That's
quick
right.
math.
Pull that out and start.
You know, I can always add that later. For those who
Yes,
want to
we
do
can.
decibel math, I don't think too many, that's what I do for a living, but I don't think other people want to do that.
Yeah, so a lot of companies throw around the word hearing safe. I don't like to use that term. That hearing safe meaning OSHA has basically studied and said that impulse noises like a gunshot, anything under 140 decibels is not likely to cause permanent hearing damage. And so suppressor companies throw around this idea that it's hearing safe if it's under 140 decibels. It's hearing safe for one shot, because sound is like radiation. It's exposure over time.
Right.
So
That's exactly right, guys. And it's not a tipping point thing where 141 is bad and 139 is perfectly okay. It does not work that way.
Yeah. So even at 132 decibels, you fire 2 shots in an 8-hour period, and you're above that limit threshold.
Exactly. So tell us about, what the innovation here to me seems to be not just the modularity and why maybe you would want modularity in a shotgun suppressor, but also the fact that most of the volume of the thing is down below.
Right.
And I haven't seen that. I'm not saying it's exclusive, but I haven't seen it in other designs.
Yeah, well, there's a few reasons for that. First of all, you picked up on the modularity. Obviously, that's important because it allows the user to customize the suppressor to their specific needs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to shoot this down into the 4-inch configuration because you're going to be hunting grouse through brush and you need to be able to swing quickly and you're willing to give up some of the sound reduction, that becomes about 138 decibels in the 4-inch configuration. And so you can kind of tailor it to your specific needs. And then to the other point, most of the volume is below the bore. Right. And that kind of works twofold. Number one is it lets you use your standard beads. So you don't have to do optics or crazy sights or anything on your shotgun. You don't have to do a whole bunch of modifications. And two, because you are shooting, shotgun ammunition, which has wads and cups and discs and all kinds of different things. It's a very different beast than a rifle suppressor.
Right. Things that open up as soon as it leaves the bore.
Yes, things that open up, things that have a tendency to move and wander. And so over time, eventually you're going to get a piece of a wad or, unburnt powder or something that's going to be trapped in the suppressor. And this way it allows it to fall out of the way of the bore so you can continue shooting until you go and take it apart to do your maintenance. You wouldn't even know that there was anything in there. And it's just kind of an inevitability with the shotgun. Eventually you're going to get something in there. This keeps it out of harm's way so you can continue shooting.
So you are not following the model of a lot of companies that are using 3D printing, which are incredibly complicated in some cases. And they look to me like you're never going to be able to clean this thing, except maybe by dunking it in solvent and shaking it and hoping everything comes out.
With a sonic cleaner,
you can actually inspect everything in there.
Yeah.
What kind of maintenance cycle do you recommend for this?
So we recommend at a minimum, if you spend a day at the range or a hunting trip, at least take it apart, make sure that there's nothing that looks out of sorts. But just general cleaning, every 500 rounds or so, take it apart, give it a scrub, give it a soak. The material is 70-75 aluminum for the outer shell, and then the cones and baffles inside are all 17-4 stainless steel. So any solvent or anything you want to use isn't going to touch the stainless. But some of the more aggressive stuff will affect the aluminum. So basically anything you would clean your gun in, you're going to be able to clean your suppressor in.
And since it's modular, you can actually do that.
Yeah, you can take it right apart and view each individual baffle and say, like, this one I need to get the toothbrush in there and scrape. And this one at the end, all I need to do is give it a little dunk and wipe.
Ken once had a parts washer that didn't work out very well.
Don't go there. That's a bad. See, I had a parts washer I purchased once, and it lasted about 20 minutes before it died. And there's a whole
the actual parts washer, you killed the parts washer with the solvent you put in it.
Wrong solvent went into it, and it destroyed the parts washer. Yes, that's a separate issue.
On some of our older suppressors, particularly 20 22s that were all aluminum and needed constant cleaning. We had some people that would run the dip. Anyone in the suppressor world knows what that is. And they would come back to that in the morning and they were like, oh, my can is either missing or it's Swiss cheese now, because it would eat right through the aluminum.
Yeah, completely. Now, tell me about it. Is this safe for birdshot, buckshot, slugs? I mean, are there any rounds? Since shotgun fires so many different types of things, are there any things that you shouldn't run through it?
The only thing that we recommend you don't run through it is like the flight control wads. Because those are basically, their whole mantra is, any gun, any choke, it's going to work. And so basically it's designed to kind of puff up and fit whatever you're shooting it through. And it doesn't like to do that, 8 to 10 times in a row,
right, pop
down through the suppressor.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
It doesn't cause any damage to the suppressor, but we find an excess amount of wad material in there. And so we recommend you don't use that.
Okay.
So we're not also, I hadn't even thought of this until now. You're going to use a cylindrical choke?
So yeah, with the chokes in here, it ships with the improved cylinder.
Oh, it does have a choke built into it.
Yep, right.
Okay, I wasn't
chokes. Yeah,
I wasn't sure that was actually a choke that was in there. I thought it was actually part of just the entire disassembly of the unit.
Yeah, no, the choke is its own separate piece, so it's going to ship with an improved cylinder choke. And then for the 20, we have modified and full available, and for the 12, we have modified full turkey and skeet as well.
You use a standard thread choke size, like I think Remington and Browning Satori has a different choke thread.
This is proprietary just because only our chokes are going to fit in there.
Okay.
You're not going to take a Carlson's choke that's 3 inches long and fit it in that space.
Okay, got it.
But to that point, the mounting system uses the choke threads of the firearm, but it's only using that to mount the suppressor to the firearm. The actual choking of the shot happens at the muzzle. So just like an unsuppressed shotgun, the last thing that shot and that wad sees is the choke.
Okay.
So I started the conversation a little earlier before we started filming, but my understanding is that just for the purposes of the law, only the back piece is the registered piece, at least until NFA goes away. That's another topic, and we're not going down that road right now because we don't know what's going to happen. But anything, you must have the back piece on because that's the serialized piece, and anything ahead of that is simply the number of baffles you decide to include.
Yeah, modular suppressors are a little bit tricky, mainly because the ATF keeps flip-flopping on what they consider a suppressor, what they consider extra parts, what they consider spare parts. But at this point in time, yes, kind of the keystone component is the mount of the suppressor, because you can't mount it to the firearm and you can't mount any baffles to that without that piece. So that's the piece that we serialize. We ship it in its full-length configuration, and the ATF has said you can make the suppressors shorter, but you can't make them longer. If you make it longer, then they consider that being a whole new suppressor. Yeah, it makes about as much sense as it sounds.
Government regulation, you gotta love it. Yeah.
They didn't offer rationale as to why, did they?
No, but they don't have to, so they don't.
Well, and they would change their mind anyway if that was the case. Tell us a little bit about the background of the company. Well, before suppressors and stuff like that, and all the stuff you used to do before suppressors were maybe the main focal point.
Yeah, well, you guys mentioned it. You know us for backup sights, and handguards, and muzzle devices.
Yep.
For years and years and years, that was our bread and butter product. Right. If you look at a Bushmaster catalog in the 90s, their BMAS accessory line was 99% YHM parts.
Yeah, YHM.
We developed and produced and basically sold to them, along with other third-party labels. And in the 90s, late 90s, my father, who was the CEO at the time, basically said, we've developed all these great products that the OEMs haven't picked up. Let's market these products under our own label. Mm-hmm. And so that led to YHM, the brand, as opposed to YHM, the machine shop.
I see. So, and YHM is actually a location, isn't it? Yankee Hill is a little tiny community in western Massachusetts. Is that right?
Yeah. So if you look at like the Northampton, Leeds area, Yankee Hill is kind of a local neighborhood. You won't find it on a map or anything like that. But that's where it got its name from, because the garage that they started it in was in an area known as Yankee Hill. And so it was the Yankee Hill Machine Shop.
So who do you hire? And, what does your team look like? We have one of your team members holding my phone right now. So he's doing a fantastic job, and his arms are probably getting tired. He's probably wondering how much longer we're going to film. But at the same time, who comprises your team? And, maybe a little bit of background about, why should someone choose your products over the next guy down the road?
Sure. Well, my team at this point is quite large. We're just under 50 employees. We've obviously got, myself and some management kind of keeping track of different departments, but YHM is in a unique position where we do everything in the product development cycle. So I've got people who just do R&D work and produce prototype products. I got engineers that just make those prototype products into production-ready products. I've got graphic artists and people in marketing backgrounds to market and sell the product and do the manuals and do the packaging. I've got people who, obviously machinists, who make the product, who make the things. I've got people who assemble and package the product, and then I've got a sales team who actually markets the product out to the general public. And then I've got a fulfillment team who actually puts the stuff in boxes and makes sure it goes where it needs to go.
How do you come up with new product ideas? Is that just sit around on a Friday after work with a drink in your hand and brainstorm, or is it driven by, let's say, other market influences?
It's a little bit of both. So sometimes it's just a creative thing that happens. I wake up with an idea in my head and say, hey guys, I want to try this. Let's see what we do to make it work.
And do they go, oh no, not again?
No, they're pretty good about it. When I used to be in that position with my father, and he'd come in and say I had a new idea, sometimes it was like, oh boy, what's today?
Where are we going now? Yeah, I can imagine.
And sometimes their product ideas come from my design team, and they say, we want to try this. The V20 was a direct result of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They were like, we've got the V12. Well, let's scale it down to 20 gauge and see how it sounds.
Yeah.
And it sounds phenomenal.
Is there a market for 16 gauge or 10 gauge or anything else?
I think there's a very limited market. I can't say that it fits our design philosophy of kind of making it affordable to the masses.
Right.
I think it would be so niche we wouldn't be able to make enough of them to kind of get that quantity of scale to keep the price down.
Right.
So tell us about warranties.
So the YHM product has a limited lifetime warranty. Basically, if it's something that we did, so if it's a defect in the material itself or the manufacturing process, we'll warrant at 100%, whether that looks like a repair or a replacement or whatever it is. If it's something that the customer does out of warranty, we do have kind of a grace period where with the suppressors, we'll say, okay, we're not going to leave you completely on the hook here because, you did something stupid or uneducated.
Right.
So we're able to get that suppressor or the newest replacement into their hands for 50% off MSRP.
Well, that's fair. I mean, you can't cover everything forever and never expect.
And being modular, I mean, if you somehow you damage one or two of these baffled areas, you can switch those out without too much difficulty.
Yeah. Basically, the suppressor comes back to us, and then we swap out the damaged components.
Yeah.
And even in the non-modular ones, most of them are constructed in a way that we can repair them and don't have to replace the entire suppressor 99% of the time.
Very good.
What happens in the 1% of the time?
The 1% of the time, luckily, it's not as big of a deal now that we have, the $0 tax stamp and 5-day turnarounds for forms. So now basically it looks like, okay, we're going to send a suppressor to the dealer of your choice. They process the form forward, and you've got a brand new suppressor.
So what's coming up for Yankee Hill in terms of new products, new ideas, and maybe talk a little bit about the rest of your product line? There's a couple things here on the table that we haven't discussed yet. You're not just suppressors, and if suppressors, let's just say, went away tomorrow, the Supreme Court said, you know what, suppressors, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And then you'd still have a business to maintain and a team to maintain.
Yeah.
What else you got and what else is coming up?
Yeah, well, we kind of have the trifecta. We do the suppressor lineup. We do the parts and accessories that we used to be well known for.
Right.
20 years ago, coming to SHOT Show, when I first started coming to the show, people would come in and say, oh, yeah, I know your handguards and your sights and whatever. And I see you also have a suppressor, or maybe two at the time. And then now it's a total flip-flop where people come in and see the suppressors and like, I didn't know you made all of these parts and accessories. And it's like, yeah, we've been doing that for 50 years.
Right.
Is that how you're going to stay in front of the suppressor market with so many new entries into the market? Because like I said, you cannot, I mean, folks, you're not seeing this, but yeah, 60 plus
vendors who are out there selling their own designs.
Yeah, and that's
amazing.
Only, now wait, that's only through the suppressor store.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's other vendors out there
down on the first
and
floor,
ones that they simply don't cover.
Yeah.
So
over
how does a person
wouldn't surprise me.
How do you make a choice?
I think the choice is obvious when it comes to YHM because you get such a value for the price. And as far as, what do we think of these, pop-ups and things like that? We've seen it before. We've been around for 3 generations now. We've seen with 41F in 2016, all of a sudden everybody was making suppressors because something was going to change. Whether that was good or bad, people don't like change. And so if it had a serial number, it sold in 2016. We saw the same
Muffler
thing.
pipe with a serial number.
Yeah.
They sold.
We saw the same thing in the 2008, Obama era, when there was constant talk of banning the AR-15.
Right.
All of a sudden, everybody and their brother was making AR-15s and bolt carriers and all kinds of parts. And the guys like us who have been doing it and have built a brand and a good reputation, it was kind of steady business for us. So it was business as usual.
So roughly how many states is this available in?
42.
42 states out of 50.
Yeah.
What are the other? Okay, Massachusetts, California.
People's
what are the
Republic
other
of-
6?
New York, New Jersey.
Hawaii, I'm betting.
Hawaii, definitely. Rhode Island. Rhode Island is really bad. They actually just rewrote their laws to try to make it better for police, but I think they kind of wrote themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Chicago, Illinois area, they're still
Right.
Okay.
out of it. And I'm an ASA board member too. I don't know if Tim talked about that, but
No, you need to talk about that. Tell us. So I don't know what ASA is.
American
What's that?
Suppressor Association.
Okay, but
That's correct.
Okay, if I knew, doesn't mean the listeners know.
well, now they know what it is. What do
Now
we
they
do?
know what it is. Yeah, what do you do?
So,
why are you on the board?
So much like the NSSF, it's a trade organization, but based around silencers and suppressors. And their goal is to totally deregulate suppressors in the United
Absolutely.
States.
It's safety equipment.
Yeah. And so they've been working very hard for, over a decade, 15, 20 years at this point, lobbying and introducing bills and going to testify and try to fight bad bills to increase suppressor ownership. And they've been very successful on the state level of getting more states on. They've done a fantastic job of states that used to allow suppressed shooting but not suppressed hunting to allow hunting in those states using suppressors as well.
Okay.
And so that's how we've gotten that number up to the 42 states where we are now.
Where was it when you started?
I think it was about 36 states.
Okay,
like that,
that's
yeah.
progress. Yeah,
Yeah,
because some of
totally.
them are just going to be really hard cases. Hawaii, New Jersey,
Yeah.
California, Massachusetts.
California.
They're going to be hard cases no matter what.
Right.
So,
Yeah, there's certain states that just because it's tangential to guns, it's going to be an instant no. They
Right.
don't care to learn more. They don't care to find out what the reality of this thing is. It's just, it's gun related? No, nothing to do with that.
No.
so are you going to be able to, if let's say California opens up, which is a big market,
Oh, yeah.
are you going to be able to scale to that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
That's one of the great things is being in the position of we make the stuff, not we get it in from someone else and put it together. I just make more.
so your stuff is made in the USA?
It's all made in the USA. Yep, with USA source materials whenever physically possible.
Do you happen to know how many of your competitors are using USA, let's say, sourced parts?
I don't know that off the top of my head, and whatever numbers they throw out there, it's difficult to verify anyway. But for the most part, the suppressor manufacturers are all, pulling for USA made.
So you listeners have heard us say before that, hey, the reality of frugal in the firearms industry, actually almost any industry right now, is there's a lot of imports, and you just have to accept that and, try to pass laws and try to encourage companies to manufacture in the United States. But it doesn't mean it's going to happen, and it doesn't mean it's going to happen soon. So you have to appreciate that these guys are actually building stuff and have been in the United States. What else you got for us, Chris?
Well, I don't know if you've seen, but we seem to have this diamond logo all over everything.
I've noticed that.
2026 is
75
our
years.
75th anniversary.
Wow.
So 75 years we've come from making screw machine parts in a garage to making AR-15 parts to being a nationally recognized suppressor manufacturer that we are today.
Very good.
I hope you have a good succession plan.
I do. I have a succession outline.
Good. Yeah, I know with a lot of companies, that's hard to find. Maybe passing it on to the son or daughter isn't always the right thing to do.
Yeah.
From a business perspective.
Depends
I
on the
invest in
family.
Apple
Yeah.
stock, so I know that they have like a very big, how are we going to replace Tim Cook? But they replaced Steve Jobs, and it's worked out, so it's a possible thing to do.
Yep.
Every year, you're in the same spot here in the law enforcement section of the show.
Mhm.
For those who can make it
Shot
to the show.
Yeah.
But let's say you can't come to SHOT. where do people find your stuff? Is it just online? Is it locally sourced? Is it through various distributors? How do you do it?
Yes. So we have two-strip distribution who supplies the dealer networks out there. We also do dealer direct sales. So if a shop out there wants to buy one of something and maybe for whatever reason doesn't qualify or doesn't work with a distributor who carries our product, we do sell direct as well. And then everything basically without a serial number on it, we also sell retail on the web at yhm.net.
And how much of the business is moving toward, maybe as a percentage, towards suppressors?
I would say we're probably 85% or better suppressor.
Wow, really?
The big swing from where you've been in the past. Absolutely.
Now, obviously, that's a little bit skewed because if we're talking about, sites and parts and widgets, those are a lower dollar item.
Yeah.
Suppressors are a higher dollar item.
Agreed.
So it depends if you're looking at volumes of dollars or volumes of parts.
Got it. Any other anecdotal stories, funny stuff, things you want to pass on?
So I always like to share this story. Part of our development process is we get a suppressor together and we go, yeah, this looks really good. It sounds good. It does everything we want it to do. Let's flip it around and shoot it backwards. And you'd be surprised how many times we do that. We're like, oh, it sounds a little bit better this way. Even after doing this for suppressors alone for 20 plus years, it still surprises us sometimes when we get a design that just works the way we want it to. We try flip it and it works. We've even done that with competitors' products, and we're just like, okay, we've got it in. Let's build the jig to shoot it backwards. Like, this is significantly quieter. They never thought to try this.
Wow.
One of your competitors, I'm not going to name it, but they actually have an idea. These guys just make modular stuff, nothing else. And they actually have a challenge for their people to, like, we think we got it right, but we'll give you a reward if you can make it quieter than us. But I don't know how they're testing it, and there's a lot of ways. I'll tell you guys something about audio. I learned this in my first 2 weeks as an audio engineer. Audio is the only area of engineering, I was told, where you can be wrong by 50% and still have a good answer. So, yeah.
I believe it.
What really matters, though, here is the quality of the product, the price point of the product, the value of the product. They stand behind their warranty. And at the same time, you're protecting your hearing, and
your hearing.
You cannot replace that.
No.
Any other comments for us, Chris?
I'm a testament to that. And that hearing safe number, I've got a hearing aid in both ears because, hearing safe. Everything, every suppressed shot I take is hearing safe.
Oops.
And from years of shooting unsuppressed and then additional years of shooting suppressed, thinking I was hearing safe, I have a hearing aid now at 45. So
yeah, well, that's a very youthful 45, though, Chris. I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
You're wearing it well. Ken, what else you got?
Well, no, I appreciate the opportunity here. I actually have some ideas of my own, but I can't. I'm not a manufacturer, and I live in a state where I can't do anything. But I have.
Well, maybe Chris will hire you as a design engineer
someday,
or something like that.
We'll see.
It's some outside consulting, maybe.
We'll see. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. We introduced the Victor 12 last year. And at that point, it was one of only a very small handful of commercially available shotgun suppressors. And we had salespeople and engineers coming from other companies going, wow, we really like this. Like, we wish we had been given more time to develop ours further and to do things a little different. And I approach every product with a mentality of, I didn't do a 12-gauge shotgun suppressor just to say we can make a shotgun suppressor now. It had to be a good 12-gauge shotgun suppressor.
Right.
And I don't want to badmouth anybody, but I kind of got the feeling like a lot of these guys were just told we need a 12-gauge suppressor. And that was the end of the conversation.
Well, it's your management style, because a lot of times the boss will come down and say, make this happen. I'm going to go play golf.
Right. Yeah. And, my engineers were very upset because I kind of gave them a napkin sketch and said, I've been toying around with this idea for years. What do you think? And they come up with their own ideas and try other stuff. And, after 3 or 4 months of development, they're like, your napkin sketch is the best one.
There you go. There you go.
And they're not just saying that because you pay the bill.
No, they were very disappointed that it was the best one because they were like, all right, we're degreed engineers here. We're going to go do this and, do this finite element analysis and gas flow and stuff. And they're like, we're going to make this better. And they're like, that damn napkin sketch.
See, sometimes actually intuition is sometimes the best guide.
Yeah.
And that's why you're leading the company.
Yeah.
Right? All right. Any other comments, Chris?
No, I think that pretty much covered it.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Very pleased, happy. I feel really blessed to be in the position I am. As a little kid, I knew this is what I wanted to do growing up. I wanted to take control of YHM and do what we do and keep the family business going.
Outstanding. That's nice to hear. Yeah, passing it on. So, Hey, I want to thank Chris and Tim in the background there, whose hands are probably getting very tired, for helping us get this video posted. Definitely recommend that you look at YHM's site. Don't just look at the suppressors, look at all the other stuff that they have. Stuff. Yeah, the Ken and I have used for years. Absolutely worth it. And we'll see you guys, in another video on another day.